Earlier this year, I set out to find the last remaining KenTacoHut because combination restaurants have been dying out rapidly across America. They go from 3 restaurants to 2 restaurants to 1, or sometimes they just close entirely. It seems like an irreversible trend, or is it? In February, a new combination restaurant opened in Texas, the likes of which had never been seen before in America. A combo Applebee's and IHOP, or as I like to call it, IHOPplebee. And since I'm weirdly passionate about combo restaurants, I knew I had to go experience it for myself and see if this could be the comeback we're all hoping for. Sometimes all I think about is you, late nights in the middle of June. If you're new here, I'm a little bit of a combination restaurant aficionado, and because of that, I can't tell you how many times people sent me these headlines. Besides the fact that this just sounds like an incredible culinary experience, one reason I was so excited to go see this place in person is that I think this might be one of the best examples of a combination restaurant that's ever existed. And here's what I mean by that. I've developed a framework for all the different ways that restaurants can be combined. On the one end, you've got separate businesses that are loosely attached. This includes things like mall food courts, gas stations and travel plazas, Little Caesars inside a Kmart. In most cases, I don't even really consider these to be combo restaurants. In the middle, you've got multiple brands in a dedicated space, but separate counters and separate employees. The best example of this is a combination Wendy's and Tim Hortons. And then on the other end, the most pure examples of combination restaurants include a shared kitchen, shared counter, and shared employees. Examples include Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, Dunkin' Baskin-Robbins, Auntie Anne's, Cinnabon, and Carvel, and of course, the aforementioned KenTacoHut, which is a triple combination KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut. Obviously, IHOP and Applebee's are slightly different in that they come from the world of casual dining, not fast food, so they don't really have a counter like these other places. But from what I can tell from these articles, this place checks all the other boxes with a shared kitchen, shared employees, and shared branding. So as I got ready to fly to Texas, I had one big question on my mind. Why are IHOPplebees popping up in 2025 when most other combination restaurants are going in the other direction? But unfortunately, before I could answer that question, I ran into a huge problem.
Okay, so when people started sending me these articles, I was like, guys, I think there already is one of these in Detroit. Like in this ideas note on my computer, it says IHOP plus Applebee's in Detroit. I hadn't really looked into it. It was just an idea for a video that I had jotted down. So when these articles came out, I went back and looked into the Detroit one. And there weren't that many pictures, but I found this one that shows the 2 restaurants side by side, almost like they would be set up at an airport, which if you remember, would put them in the category with like food courts and travel plazas. And I'm like, surely the authors of these articles did their research before they called this one in Texas the first in the US. But then, just now, as I'm like getting ready to go, I find these 360-degree walkthroughs.
And the reason why I didn't see these before, and this is one of my gripes with combination restaurants, is that they're listed as separate establishments on Google Maps. So when you look at the listing for IHOP, the only 360-degree images are from Street View. But when you look at the listing for Applebee's, it's like the Street View car drove right through the restaurant.
Like, this is clearly one restaurant. Like, I'm on the Applebee's side, and they've got syrup on the table. I don't know if you've been to Applebee's recently, but that's not typical Applebee's behavior. I was able to find that it's in this hotel, and on the hotel website it says these are the IHOP hours and these are the Applebee's hours, and they don't overlap. So I'm thinking, okay, so that's not really a combo restaurant. Like, it just switches from an IHOP to an Applebee's, but maybe you can't really order both at the same time. So maybe that's why the articles are calling the one in Texas the first.
But I went ahead and called the restaurant just to be sure. By the way, a lot of people are giving me a hard time for never calling the KenTacoHut in Puerto Rico, and I just have to defend myself for a second here. When I was making that video, they didn't have a phone number on their Google Maps listing or on any websites. And even if they did, my Spanish is so rusty that it just would have been a nightmare for everyone involved.
Hello, and thank you for calling the Applebee's IHOP. Press 1 for hours of operation. The hours of operation for the Applebee's IHOP at the Millender Center are 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. Press 3 to reach a team member or manager, or to... Thank you for calling IHOP. How can I help you?
Hi, I just have a quick question for you. What time does the restaurant switch over?
11 a.m.
Okay, so after 11 a.m., you can't order IHOP anymore?
No, you can. You just can't order Applebee's before 11.
So hypothetically, would I be able to order IHOP from the Applebee's side at like 8 p.m.?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem. Have a nice day.
So as it turns out, those hours on the hotel website were wrong. You can sit on either side and order from either restaurant, except you can't order from Applebee's before 11 a.m.
I mean, this checks all the boxes for a combination restaurant, which is crazy because that would mean that all those articles are wrong. And I think it also means that I'm probably going to need to go to Detroit.
Since I was going to be making the trip, I tried to see what other videos I could work on between here and there. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, when I'm traveling and filming 3 to 4 videos at the same time, staying on top of my spending can feel a little bit stressful. But that's why I'm thankful to partner with Chime, who's the sponsor of this episode. Chime lets you feel good about your money without having to stress about all those monthly fees we've become so used to paying with traditional financial institutions. There were multiple times in college when I accidentally overdrafted my checking account and then got hit with fees from my bank that were higher than the charge itself. I felt like I was trying to get on top of my finances, but was constantly hitting setbacks. Chime, on the other hand, is built to help you get ahead. They provide a checking account, a secured credit card, and savings tools that are easy to use, totally transparent, and built to support real financial progress. Take their checking account, for example. With SpotMe, eligible members can overdraft up to $200 on debit purchases or cash withdrawals with no fees. Whether you accidentally overdraft like I did or need a quick spot, SpotMe is there to help you cover what you need and then pay it back later. No stress, no questions asked. It's there to cover you when you need it. So if you're tired of surprise fees, long waits for paychecks, and outdated tools, you can use the link in the description or scan this QR code to sign up for Chime for a smarter way to manage your money with no monthly fees, no minimums, and no stress. Get started today, and thanks again to Chime for sponsoring this episode. After a full day of driving, I eventually made it to the city of brotherly love, Detroit. The hotel where the restaurant is located is right across the river from South Detroit, aka Windsor, Canada. It's not super clear when this IHOPplebee opened, but the signage first appears on Google Street View in the summer of 2018, so it's been there for at least 7 years. IHOP and Applebee's have been under the same parent company since 2007, but 2018 would make sense for this opening because that's when their parent company rebranded from Dine Equity Inc. to Dine Brands Global and tried to shake things up a little bit. So here's the view from the lobby side. They've put up about half an acre of shrubbery to kind of separate the lobby from the restaurants, but as you can tell, still kind of looks like they're 2 separate entities on the right and the left, with one host stand in the middle. And I just want to acknowledge the elephant in the room right off the bat. I know that it says Coffee Bar by IHOP and IHOP Express, and I'll explain what that is in just a second. I got there around 8:30 p.m. and the restaurant was far from full, but I was told there was a 15-minute wait if I didn't want to sit at the bar. So I joined a wait list and found a seat in the lobby where I was able to start looking over their menu. Also, just as a side note, one weird feature is that there's no bathroom inside this restaurant. So instead, they'll tell you to go stop by the desk in the hotel lobby where they'll give you a code for the hotel bathroom. Okay, so IHOP Express. Most of the official information from IHOP about IHOP Express is in relation to airport locations. They say the difference is that IHOP Express locations have limited menus and then the option for either counter service or table service. But looking at this menu from the Detroit location, it seems pretty built out. I recognize a few things they don't carry here, like breakfast tacos, but I don't feel like there's too much that I'd be like really mad that they didn't have. And then the coffee bar part, first of all, the fact that you can get lattes, cappuccinos, and iced coffees here is incredible. Like none of that is on the menu at my local IHOP. And then it looks like there are also some grab and go food items. And not only are there more varieties of breakfast burritos here than on the normal IHOP menu, but I don't think these bowls are included on the normal IHOP menu at all. Also, just to be clear, there is a seating area for IHOP, like it's not just this counter, but I'll show you that in just a second. So say what you want about IHOP Express, but I feel like it should at least get credit for having options that a traditional IHOP doesn't have. Eventually I got seated and I saw that large sections of the restaurant were curtained off. Later when I was leaving, I was able to look through the windows to see the rest of it, and it's actually a really big space. And I do feel like it's normal for restaurants to limit service after a certain time, but 8:30 p.m. doesn't seem like crazy late when you're open until 10. 2 things I want to point out to further solidify the fact that this is in fact a legit combo restaurant are that it's definitely a shared kitchen and the menus are printed together. It's not like you're ordering from 2 separate menus. I knew I wanted to get some classics from both restaurants, so I ordered a Mountain Dew Dark Berry Bash, which is an Applebee's exclusive, the quesadilla appetizer from Applebee's. I asked if they had half off apps after 9 p.m., but was told that they only had a happy hour from 3 to 6 p.m., so my quesadilla would be full price. From IHOP, I got a stack of chocolate chip pancakes, and then for dessert, I ordered the triple chocolate meltdown. The drink came out first, and immediately I was like, I don't know what that is, but it is definitely not Mountain Dew Dark Berry Bash. I'm just going to show you a side-by-side comparison so you can see the difference in color. For a split second, I was like, wait, does this IHOPplebee serve Baja Blast? But after tasting it, I confirmed that it was neither Baja Blast nor Dark Berry Bash, perhaps a secret flavor exclusive to this location. If anybody from Mountain Dew or Applebee's is watching and can tell me what I just drank, that would be great. The quesadilla was delicious, very salty, but otherwise no notes, and the pancakes were solid, exactly what you'd expect from IHOP. Although at one point I almost accidentally took a sip of the syrup instead of my drink. Could have been bad. And then the chocolate meltdown thing was decent. I've heard that pretty much everywhere that serves these, from fancy restaurants all the way down to Domino's, just gets them from the same supplier. I haven't been able to confirm that, but honestly, it would not surprise me. One thing I made sure to ask my waitress about was this buffet I had seen in those 360 images. So from these pictures, which are dated June 2018, it looks like you could do an IHOP breakfast buffet for $13.99, featuring waffles, eggs, bacon, sausage, biscuits and gravy, and then cereal and other stuff. Basically a really nice hotel breakfast buffet. And once again, way more than you're getting at a typical IHOP. And then at lunchtime, there was an Applebee's buffet for the same price, which looks like it included a soup and salad bar and then rotated based on the day. So you might get stir fry, tacos, shrimp, riblets, or maybe different types of chicken. Incredible setup, phenomenal deal, but sadly my waitress told me that they stopped doing that sometime around COVID. She said occasionally they'll throw a buffet back there during a big game to take some of the stress off the kitchen, but mostly it's just nothing. Here's a shot of what that section looks like now. So after eating here, does this location deserve the title of being the first IHOPplebee in America? As someone who may have accidentally become one of the world's foremost experts on combination restaurants, I would say yes, for the following reasons. For one, as I mentioned before, the menus are combined and all the food is prepped in the same kitchen. Two, for all intents and purposes, it's a combined seating area. Like sure, the vast majority is themed like Applebee's, and you've got one room that's exclusively themed like IHOP, but you can sit on either side and order from either menu, as exemplified by the syrups on the table on the Applebee's side. Just don't even think about trying to order from Applebee's before 11 a.m. And finally, three, I don't feel like the fact that it's an IHOP Express disqualifies it in any way. In fact, a lot of the combination restaurants we're most familiar with feature a limited menu for one or both of the restaurants. Like most combination Pizza Hut and Taco Bells are actually just Taco Bells with a Pizza Hut Express menu tacked on. That being said, there's one huge reason I think I still need to visit the location in Texas. In the first video I made about combo restaurants about a year and a half ago, I said, the real reason, the biggest reason in my opinion, these restaurants are now an endangered species is that they never really capitalized on exclusive crossover items like the ones that I was trying to make in that video. And the Detroit location definitely didn't do that, but from what I've heard, the new location in Texas does. But before we get there, the question still remains, why now? Why is Dine Brands taking this big swing by announcing plans for over a dozen of these IHOP and Applebee's combos when other companies are going in the opposite direction? To understand the background and hopefully find an answer to that question, I've prepared for you a very abridged version of the history of combination restaurants. So buckle up. In 1977, PepsiCo buys Pizza Hut and then Taco Bell a year after that. In 1986, they acquire KFC, and 7 years later, a baby boy is born on the south side of Richmond, Virginia. His name, Dwight Schrute. Just kidding, his name was Sam Reid. But little does he know, that same year, exactly 45 miles to the northeast, a KFC in Tappahannock, Virginia is remodeled and becomes the world's first KFC Taco Bell. This ends up being wildly successful, and PepsiCo plans to open 50 dual-branded restaurants by the summer of 1995. A couple years later, the restaurant division of PepsiCo spins off to become Tricon Global Restaurants. And around that same time, Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin-Robbins, who are both under parent company Allied Domecq, start testing co-branded locations as well. In the year 2000, Tricon experiments by teaming up with another company called Yorkshire Global Restaurants, who owns Long John Silver's and A&W, to make even more combinations. And they're like, you know what? This is going so well, we should just merge our two companies. So in 2002, Tricon and Yorkshire combined to form Yum Brands. And by this point, Yum has over 1,000 multi-branded locations. Here's where it gets good. From roughly 2002 to 2010 is what I would personally describe as the golden age of combination restaurants. People are bullish on the idea that you can increase revenue by 30 to 40% without paying any more for real estate. And so during that time, Yum doubles its number of co-branded locations from 1,500 to roughly 3,000. The chief development officer at Yum says they plan to increase the number of combination restaurants to 6,000 by 2025. 2007. And on one annual report, they claim that they have the potential for 13,000 co-branded locations in the US. And yet, in 2025, there are mere hundreds left. So what happened? Despite their lofty goals, Yum's 10K filings with the SEC reveal that the actual number of multi-brand units never broke 5,000. And just as a point of clarification, they include Pizza Hut and Wing Street in that total, which I don't really consider a combo restaurant, because Wing Street doesn't exist outside of Pizza Hut. So when you take out those locations, the actual number is closer to 3,000. I've discussed some of this before, but basically multi-branding wasn't quite as profitable as everyone thought it would be. It was harder to train staff, maintain inventory, and customers complained that the quality was just never as good. And then on top of all that, discretionary spending from consumers declined each year from 2007 to 2009 because of the recession. By 2010, a Yum Brands quarterly report to investors revealed a reduced emphasis on multi-branding as a long-term growth strategy. And by the end of 2011, they had sold A&W and Long John Silver's to another company. So I kind of thought, okay, there's the answer to why they're dying off. It's no longer a priority for Yum, and if Yum can't pull it off, what chance does smaller companies have? Case closed, pretty straightforward. I know that recent Yum CEOs have tried to improve efficiency, and I thought that meant letting combo locations slowly die off as remodels happen, or just letting them exist in peace if franchisees want. But what I didn't realize is that there was a specific plan in place to kill them off. I have right here an internal document for Taco Bell franchisees that's been shared with me by an anonymous source, never before seen by the general public. And I'd like to read a few quotes for you from a section entitled Decoupling Incentive Program. This is specifically talking about Taco Bells that are paired with KFCs. So it says, option number 1, upgrade an existing KT meaning KenTaco, to a single branded KFC restaurant and build a new single brand Taco Bell restaurant in the same trade area. So if a franchisee took that option in 2024, they would get a $22,500 fee waived, a reduction in the percentage of fees they pay to Taco Bell for the next year, and get this, $50,000 cash. Taco Bell is going to pay you $50,000 if you break up your combo KFC Taco Bell. And then the other 3 options are all variations of that. So keep the Taco Bell, build a new KFC, downgrade to a KFC without building a new Taco Bell, or downgrade to a Taco Bell without building a new KFC. So again, I just feel like these are polar opposite strategies from 2 restaurant giants. Like on the one hand, Yum Brands basically has a hunting license for their combination restaurants, while on the other hand, Dine Brands is kind of trying to rehabilitate the species Jurassic Park style. Obviously, one is in fast food and the other one is in casual dining, so maybe Dine will be able to make this setup last in a way that Yum never could. But I figured the best way to see if this new setup was going to succeed or face the same fate was to go see it in person. I made my way to San Antonio on a red-eye flight from Portland after attending the Steve Irwin Gala in Las Vegas the night before, and this IHOPplebee is located near a small town called Seguin, Texas, which has a population of about 36,000 and a really cool downtown area. Their high school mascot is the Matadors. Why they chose Seguin for this flagship location, I'm not sure, but it did seem like there was a decent amount of construction in the area, possibly because of all the business the IHOPplebee is bringing in. The restaurant itself is just off the highway, and at long last, I laid eyes on it.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah.
So in addition to some incredible co-branding on the outside, they have a drive-thru for both Applebee's and IHOP to-go orders. Also, just a heads up for when you visit, there's apparently a very healthy bird population in Seguin, so maybe don't park under the trees unless you want your car to get absolutely painted. I got there around 11:30 a.m., which in my mind is the perfect time for some breakfast and lunch crossovers. Right when you walk in, the co-branding continues with a bench on each side, one themed like IHOP and the other themed like Applebee's. Kind of reminds me of the different color schemes inside a combination Taco Bell and Long John Silver's. The entryway is also where I learned that Seguin is the home to the world's largest pecan. And then the first thing you see once you get through the next set of doors is this giant wall with both logos. And then after that, there's a lot to take in, so allow me to show you around. On the right side, the restaurant is themed like IHOP with signs that say things like, "Smile, you're at IHOP." And it's like, Am I? I guess kind of, right? And then the left side plus the far back corner is themed like Applebee's. And the left side is also where the bar is. As you probably know, most IHOPs do not serve alcoholic beverages, which you can purchase at both this location and the one in Detroit. I got seated at a table behind the bar on the Applebee's side, but just to be abundantly clear, it's not like you can only order from one restaurant based on where you're sitting. Both menus are fair game from every seat in the house. I would describe the separate sections as more of like a visual gimmick than they were functional dividers. And this little wall thing dividing the sections actually featured alternating Applebee's apples and IHOP smiles. I found that most Applebee's locations have decor on the walls that's like vaguely local, but I feel like they got pretty specific here with the pictures of the Seguin Water Tower and stuff like Guadalupe County and a few other similar phrases. The shirts the staff were wearing had both logos, which I feel like you don't even get at most KFC Taco Bells. Like usually it's just uniforms from one restaurant or the other. And of course, a shared menu with both logos, grill and bar, and breakfast, and tabs so you can find the section you're looking for. I asked my server if they had any crossover items, and initially she said no, but then she came back and told me that they have one called the Loaded Buffalo Chicken Omelet. On the menu, that has a label that says only available here, so I actually combed back through the menu and was able to find 4 other items with that same label: the sirloin steak and eggs, the ultimate breakfast burger, the berry balsamic grilled chicken salad, and the strawberry waffle sundae. Unlike the menu in Detroit, this one wasn't as cleanly separated into IHOP and Applebee's. There was a section for breakfast, which was entirely IHOP items, but otherwise the items felt more interspersed, which I kind of like. Some menu items like these sandwiches had the label by IHOP, which was kind of interesting, and this was a much fuller version of the IHOP menu, but still not the full thing. For example, still no breakfast tacos, or like I've had a biscuit sandwich at IHOP before that wasn't on this menu. But looking over the menu, I was surprised at how much natural overlap there was. Like standalone IHOPs sell burgers and sandwiches and like seafood and stuff now, so those types of things I think are more or less eclipsed by their Applebee's counterparts. According to a couple different articles, by eliminating that overlap, they were able to get the menu down to roughly the same number of items as a standalone IHOP or Applebee's so as not to overwhelm the kitchen. Much to my surprise, they do have half-off apps at this location. I just wasn't there at the right time. And they also have the 2 for $25 deal that you can get at most Applebee's. I decided to order the Loaded Buffalo Chicken Omelet, which was their most prominently featured crossover item and the one my waitress had mentioned. The sirloin steak and eggs sounded good, but even though it's listed as only being available here, it is pretty similar to the sirloin steak tips and eggs that you can order at a regular IHOP. I guess the difference being steak versus steak tips. I got another stack of chocolate chip pancakes, the strawberry waffle sundae for dessert, and finally a redemption order of Mountain Dew Dark Berry Bash. This time I got it as a dirty soda, which basically just means that they add whipped cream. And as far as I could tell, that was not an option at the Detroit location. While I was waiting for my food, I found out that they'd been open since February 18th, 2025. I was there in the middle of May, so at that point they'd been open for just shy of 3 months. And before this, it was a standalone IHOP location. As we were talking, the waitstaff referred to this combo as the first and only in the world. And this actually brings up a really interesting point. So even if you take the Detroit one out of the equation, there are actually other IHOPplebees outside of the US, like this one in Dubai, UAE, or this one in Leon, Mexico. That one's actually above a Chili's, which is a crazy move. Like, don't tempt me with a good time. From what I could find, there are roughly 18 dual-branded IHOP and Applebee's locations outside of the US, and those are spread out across Canada, Mexico, UAE, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Honduras, and Peru. That's actually the reason this video is titled The First IHOPplebees in America instead of in the world. Although if the one in Detroit predates the international ones, maybe I did go to the first one in the world. The articles also mentioned plans to open 23 more IHOPplebees internationally. The CEO went so far as to say that the global number could soon be in the hundreds. The Dine Brands website actually has a page pitching potential franchisees on the idea of dual branded units. They say that you can either build one from the ground up or renovate an existing restaurant like they did with this IHOP. But the pitch is that you can combine the peak revenue from IHOP in the morning with the peak revenue from Applebee's in the evening and get this M-shaped graph. And believe it or not, that was actually Yum's thought process as well. In the early 90s, KFC was seen as more of a dinner concept, and Taco Bell was seen as a lunch brand. Same basic idea with Dunkin' and Baskin-Robbins, like people are getting coffee and donuts in the morning, and then ice cream in the afternoon and evening. But honestly, that M graph is probably what IHOP was going for when they introduced burgers to their menu in 2018. Do you remember that? They did this huge publicity stunt where they said that they were changing their name to IHOB. It makes me wonder if this dual branded experiment is in response to poor burger and lunch and dinner sales at IHOP locations. The other Another interesting thing to me is that in the late 90s and early 2000s, Yum was saying a co-branded restaurant could increase revenue by 30 to 40%. We'll call it 1.4x what they were doing before. Dine Brands, on the other hand, is claiming that this co-brand can 1.5 to 2x revenue for a franchisee. And that's a big claim, especially because Dine Brands may not be doing so hot. According to Restaurant Business Online, between Applebee's and IHOP, they opened 65 new restaurants last year, but closed 83. So with that in mind, this strategy to invest in combo restaurants could either be genius or maybe kind of a last-ditch effort to stop a ship from sinking. I know I've been talking for a while, but the food actually ended up coming out pretty fast. The omelet had breaded chicken tenders on both the inside and the outside, very cheesy and very creamy thanks to an abundance of ranch dressing, but the buffalo sauce had decent flavor. Overall, I would say a pretty solid crossover item. I had to make sure I wiped my knife off so I didn't get buffalo sauce on my pancakes, which would have made for a wild ride. I also realized that having this Mountain Dew with breakfast items was kind of a bold choice, although I guess I technically did it in Detroit too, but that somehow felt more normal because I was eating a quesadilla and it was like 9 p.m. Now that I say that, I guess I've also had a Baja Blast with Taco Bell breakfast before, so I don't know, I'm not a lawyer. Either way, this time around the Mountain Dew was definitely dark berry bash, which was delightful. And finally, I moved on to the strawberry waffle dessert, and it's actually only half a waffle, but that explains why it only costs $2.99. Pretty enjoyable as far as desserts go, but I had to tap out before I could finish all the ice cream because I was stuffed. So having experienced both the original location in Michigan and this newer, flashier version in Texas, the question is, will IHOPplebee suffer the same fate as the Yum Brands combos? Or is this gonna last and be more successful in the long term? Is this the start of the resurgence of combo restaurants? Here's what I'll say. I do think that this is probably the best executed example of a combination restaurant I've ever seen, which does give me hope. I would go so far as to say it might deserve its own category on this diagram, primarily because of the crossover menu items which other companies are just sleeping on, but also because of the little details like the decorations and the employee uniforms incorporating both logos. It's just stuff you don't really see elsewhere. And then I would say the icing on the cake is that you can order everything online. That's one huge flaw with Yum's combo restaurants. I think mostly because they were all built before these restaurants had apps and online ordering became a thing, but most of the time you're only able to place an order for one restaurant or the other. There's just no infrastructure to place an online or mobile order for items from both brands. But I checked, and not only can you place an order online from this location that includes both Applebee's and IHOP items in the same cart, but you can also order all 5 of those exclusive crossover items as well. I think if they want to succeed in the long term, they can tighten a couple things up. One major flaw is that they're still listed as separate restaurants on Google Maps, IHOP and then Applebee's. I don't know why. It makes it way harder to search for these that way. Another piece of feedback is that they didn't really go as hard as they could have with the crossover items. They're not super prominent on the menu, and the staff didn't even know that there were crossover items. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they were new, maybe they're still learning the menu, but I think they can be marketed better, and I also think they can get a little bit more creative. So here's some free ideas for you. 1. Burger with pancakes for the bun. It's like the McGriddle of hamburgers. 2. You do an appetizer sampler with breakfast foods. We're talking egg bites, French toast sticks, bacon-wrapped tater tots, little bite-sized pancakes. I don't know. And 3, I want to see a classic Applebee's promotion, but with IHOP items included. Like maybe all-you-can-eat shrimp, riblets, and boneless wings, plus sausage links. All right, that one actually sounds like a nightmare, but I think with a little tweaking, it could work. Despite all the initial buzz about 12 to 15 additional IHOPplebee locations, including some allegedly opening in June, it's now July, and the only news I've been able to find is about one other location in San Antonio that won't open until at least March of 2026. I emailed the senior vice president of global communications at Dine to ask for more information, but did not get a response. Is this a bad sign? I don't know. Maybe they're just behind schedule, or maybe the first location wasn't as successful as they thought it would be and they're rethinking their strategy. I really want this concept to succeed, so I left them a 5-star review, but unfortunately they kept all their reviews from before the remodel, so the average rating is like really low. Outside of IHOPplebee, do I think combo restaurants can make a comeback? I hope so. I want to believe they can. There are smaller brands out there that have launched new combos recently, but I just don't think it's been proven as a concept on a large scale since the boom of the mid-2000s. You know who should be doing this though? Arby's and Sonic. Same parent company, and I feel like Arby's business would skyrocket if you coupled it with Sonic's menu and the drive-in setup. Let me know in the comments if there are other restaurants you think would make a good combo, or if you think IHOPplebee is gonna stand the test of time. And hey, before you go, recently YouTube legend Tom Scott described one of my videos as a combination of a research deep dive, a travel video, and a slightly nauseating food review. And I think that sums it up pretty well. So if that kind of thing sounds entertaining to you, it would mean a lot lot if you hit subscribe down below. I'll be back in a couple weeks with the season finale for season 8, which will be really fun, but until then, just remember that even when it doesn't feel like it, it's gonna be okay. I'll see you soon.
Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June.